I think they've started saying small and shrink more, and they're moving away from the term skinny, which they used to love, because of skinny talk, because people are using the word skinny in a very explicitly positive way, not even just neutral anymore, because it always used to have this ambiguity to it, where, and it still is incredibly ambiguous. So many different people use it in such different ways, which is why I choose not to use it. Um, that it can be weaponized, and I think they love the word skinny. They used to, and more of them are not using it anymore. They like small now. And I think it's because yeah, they can't weaponize it. They can't say, look, skinny in the dictionary means this and this, and there's no dictionary that doesn't have a negative. And I think that's what they do. Like, that's how they got Skinny Talk shut down, in my opinion, because it's a Chinese company. Chinese executives would be the ones looking at the evidence and, oh yeah, skinny, looking it up in any Chinese English translation dictionary, you're going to see it means underweight, scrawny, like it does in English dictionaries still. Like, the English dictionaries haven't caught up to this modern array of meanings. It's not even a modern meaning. It's a whole way of different definitions by different people. The dictionaries still say it means scrawny and sickly thin, and it still say things like unattractively thin is the literal definition in one of them. They will still give all these synonyms which are clearly negative things. And so it can be weaponized in that way by fat acceptance. They will bait you into using it, because they use it all the time just to mean anyone who's not what they call fat, they will call them skinny. But if you use it and you're not on their side, they can weaponize it against you. And I think they did that against Skinny Talk, because if you listen to the way they spoke about Skinny Talk, it was all, oh, isn't it terrible? They're telling people to be skinny. And it was, they never explicitly said, look in the dictionaries. But I truly think that was the intention of, they were harking back to this memory that a lot of people have, depending on their age. Most people will have this memory. I certainly have this memory of when skinny only meant bad things. You only said skinny about a dog with rabies or a child who was neglected, like you had bones all sticking out. It was never a good thing to be called, right? Until like the 90s, and a few people started using it just to mean, not fat, but like that wasn't the normal meaning for hundreds of years. And so but now, it, because of Skinny Talk, because other, like, people have started to use that word like they use it, and in other ways that are just not the traditional meaning. Like, Whitney Holcomb uses it, but she doesn't use it in the way that, like, they use it. She doesn't, because they use it to mean basically anyone that's not super morbidly obese in some cases. Like, if you look at where they draw the line, whereas Whitney Holcomb has a more narrow definition than that. But she, but what they do have in common is that they're not using the dictionary definition, the traditional definition of underweight, basically. Different ways of saying unattractively or unhealthily thin, basically. And yeah, I think the fact that the word skinny now has these negative connotations fading from memory, so far from memory, for many people, especially the young generations that they are targeting. Fat acceptance online in social media is heavily targeting young people. And young people now are obviously, like, I don't see young people showing any sign that they remember that skinny actually means something bad. Like, so, and I think they liked the fact that it had this ambiguity. They wouldn't ever have said everyone's either fat or scrawny, or fat or bony, because those are too obviously, like, those are too unambiguous. But but I think they liked the word skinny so much because it was ambiguous in whether it had a negative, neutral, or positive connotation, and never really positive, but just neutral. And now it's being given this positive connotation by things like Skinny Talk, by influencers going out and saying, "Here's how you get skinny." That is like making it have a positive connotation when you keep seeing that over and over again, that it's something to strive for. Well, now it's not just a neutral thing. Now it's being portrayed as positive. And so I notice, not counting, I'm not like that much of a nerd, but maybe someone out there will, but I've not counted. I just get the impression from looking at more recent material by fat acceptance and health at every size activists that they're not using skinny as much. They're moving towards small. They always used to say smaller, but small is even more demeaning than smaller, especially in the context of, this is an American trend. Remember, this is the United States of America citizens who are generally leading the trends in how they shift their language, because that's, most of them would come from the United States, somewhat more than half, I'd say, still to this day, although there's plenty from other English-speaking countries too. And so when they say small, remember the cultural significance of the word small in the United States. It's not the same everywhere. I would say the word small in the United States, and what I've seen of people who've gone there and come back, and they've reported things like, you can't find a drink labeled small very easily. Everything will be medium or large. If they've got two sizes, the two sizes will be medium and large for drinks, for food, and that it's hard to find a man's shirt that says small, because men don't want to buy a shirt that says small on it, because small has an inherently negative connotation, almost regardless of what the object is, and like you have to remind someone that you want something smaller for a practical reason, and then maybe it won't be so negative. But so what I'm saying is, on a neurolinguistic programming level, which most people do at least unconsciously manipulate with, even unconsciously, we all kind of want to use language in a way that influences our audience, the person listening to us. All humans who have a certain level of verbal intelligence will start to do this at some point, and you're just not even. And sometimes it is conscious. And I think some of the old school people, your Reagan Chastains, pre-TikTok, the people who are writing on the fat acceptance blogs pre-TikToks, who set the tone, who are really Aubrey Gordon, Reagan Chastain, the old school fat acceptance people. Not old school like the 60s, still modern old school. Like, they set the tone. They set the language that's used. So they set the standard of no one ever says slim or slender, because they never did. So in that little sphere, you're just not used to hearing the word slim or slender. They're too positive. They're just not, they have no negative connotation to anyone. No one finds them negative. Therefore, they couldn't be used. They couldn't be weaponized in that way. That the word skinny can very much be weaponized. The word thin can, to a lesser extent, be weaponized. It's never been used as inherently like unhealthy, like the word skinny was in all the dictionaries, but it's kind of on the borderline there, historically speaking. And now it's got no negative connotations. Even I don't think being called thin is an insult, but I do find it like a little triggering to be called skinny. I don't like the word at all, because I've not encoded it that way. When I was a child, it didn't mean healthy, weight, slim. It meant you look like a bag of bones. It was very offensive to be called skinny, that when and where I grew up. So, but what was I even saying? So basically, yeah, slim people, they will never call you slim. They will only call you skinny in the past, and now they don't like the word skinny because too many people like it. I think that's what's happening.